Did you know the world's smallest robot vacuum can do something that other robots just don't do that well? Switchbot sent me the new K10 Plus, so we need to find out if smaller is actually better, but I'm a little bit skeptical. Links are down below. The K10 Plus is about 9.8 inches or 248 millimeters across, which is considerably smaller than all the Roombas, the Euthies, the Roborocks, and just about every other robot vacuum that I found that basically wasn't a toy. It comes with a docking station and it self-empties. It also has a mopping feature, which is unique. But can a tiny robot be as good as the bigger ones? We need to find out. Let's start with a larger robot vacuum around furniture legs. It doesn't do a bad job, but you can see it leaves some spots and it has a little bit of difficulty getting up near the center part of the table. In corners it's fine, but sometimes I need to move the table. Let's see if the K10 Plus can do any better. It definitely seems to get around the legs better in smaller spaces, so that is one of the advantages of a smaller robot. But what about corners? Can it get into corners better or as well as a big robot? I've dumped some white powder here to see if it gets in closer than the bigger vacuum. And it does a much better job in tight corners, and the big robot vacuum left a little bit of powder on the floor. So yes, it does look like a small vacuum does have an advantage in corners. But let's see if the K10 Plus can compete with a full-size robot in our standard testing, including the kind of strange mopping system it has. We dumped 25 grams of sand on carpet and it picked up 64%. Now for a robot vacuum, that's pretty average. We tested pickup on hard floors as well, and it picked up 88% of the sand. That's pretty good. Now, Switchbot claims that the K10 Plus cleans up about 90% of the surface area compared to something less for other vacuums. It's a little bit hard to test. It seems like a bold claim, but the pickup is certainly as good or close to other robot vacuums we tested in this price class. You can see it goes back and forth in a tighter pattern than some of my other robot vacuums. Suction is rated at 2.5 kilopascals or 2,500 pascals. That's actually the same thing, just a little bit of math there. That's somewhere in the mid to low end for a robot vacuum. But I think what matters more is the overall pickup and the brush design. Now you can see we tested it on kitty litter and it actually did a reasonably good job of picking up the litter, although it does tend to scatter it a little bit. And when we tested it on sand, you can see that it just left a little bit behind. But a pretty difficult test, to be honest. I don't think anybody expects their robot to pick up that much sand that someone accidentally dumped on the floor. The K10 Plus has an app which you can use to map different levels of your home. It works okay, but it could definitely use a little bit of refinement. Like most vacuums, you can set up no-go zones, which I actually find pretty helpful. Some of the robots actually get stuck under my kitchen stove, so I made that off limits.
How did we get into this mess? We seem to be made to suffer.
But you can see here the refinement of the map just is not quite as good as some of the competitors. For some reason, the map is tilted at an angle. I'm not quite sure why, and I can't rotate it to be aligned with the corners of my phone.
What a desolate place this is.
It has a LiDAR obstacle avoidance system. It uses laser to scan and map your rooms. And it does a pretty average job in terms of obstacle avoidance. It can easily see taller obstacles like shoes, but it has trouble with things that are less than an inch high. And Barbie looked like she was getting quite a little bit of extra workout in her Pilates class today. Go Barbie. Now it does do a pretty good job avoiding stairs, as it has little sensors on the bottom of it and it hasn't fallen off yet. And my cats seem to really like it. But what about pet hair? I think one of the main reasons you get a robot vacuum is to deal with pet hair, which tends to accumulate everywhere. I've got a lot of it, and you know what? The cats hired me as their cleaning servant.
Time to clean, human!
But personally, I'd rather delegate my cleaning to our robot overlords. It picked up pet hair pretty well with a few tangles, but what's really nice is that the rubber roller comes out really easy just with these two snaps, and it's pretty easy to clean off. You can see on pet hair, you definitely get some tangles, even some rave hair. You do need to remove it, but it's pretty easy to do. And it also has this rotating brush on the side which helps sweep in corners. Runtime is about 150 minutes on low and less at the higher suction levels. You can clean up to about 1,300 square feet or about 120 meters on a single charge, which is pretty sufficient for most single level homes. After it's done, it auto empties at the base. The bag holds about 4 liters, which should be good for a little over 2 months of cleaning. Now, if you have pets, you'll probably want to do some mopping as well, and we are getting to that. It's interesting. Now, if you're enjoying this video, tap the like button ever so gently. You can set up to 4 different levels of suction in the app, and it's actually probably the quietest robot vacuum I've ever used.
Loudest possible setting. Put it in the quietest mode.
And this affects runtime, but also how much it picks up. If you haven't heard of Switchbot before, they're actually a pretty big player in the home automation space. They have a central hub which can control things like cameras and door locks. And this K10 robot, along with a larger robot vac called the Switchbot S10, are their first vacuum, so it'll be pretty interesting to see how these guys do in the coming years. But now let's talk about mopping. It's got a mopping technology which is quite unique. You attach this mopping plate and then you attach this mop cloth to it. And I had a couple of problems.
Let's see how this works.
Entering mopping mode.
Okay, mopping, here we go. Let's, yeah. Stop that. Okay, so that didn't work, so I'm gonna try to put the mopping cloth on again. There's these little tabs here. Not too sure how this works. Maybe it's supposed to go like that. Trying the mopping again. Let's see if this works better. All right, go little mop, go. Let's see if there's any mopping action behind it. A little bit.
Now, personally, I've never seen this approach before. Most of the robot vacuums that I've seen, you have a mopping plate, which you either wet manually or it puts water on it at the dock and it goes around its business. This one has these replaceable mopping cloths, which from the convenience side is really good. However, if you've got a lot of pet hair, I don't think this is really a great mopping vac. This is primarily a dry vac, and it does a pretty solid job with that. So take that as you will. Interesting solution to perhaps a complicated problem. Now, if you got a large house and you want to do a lot of mopping, this probably isn't the right solution for you. However, if you've got a smaller residence and you got a lot of little tight, tiny corners to get into, I think this is actually a pretty good solution, and it is the smallest robot vacuum you can buy right now that is at all serious. There's another video on robot vacuums on the screen. You should definitely check it out. Thanks for nerding out with us today.
Finished cleaning.